Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ilias Licata, and I am the General Counsel and Managing Deputy Procurement Officer for the City of Chicago's Department of Procurement Services. On behalf of the department and CPO Velasquez, thank you for participating in today's session. Our goals today, and generally our agenda, will be to provide a high-level overview of the department. What are the rules and laws and regulations that we as a city must follow? Common terms used in the areas of procurement, the types of procurement, the certification process, contract monitoring and compliance, as well as programs, bid incentives, some information about our website, and opening the forum to questions and answers. The Department of Procurement Services, or DPS, is the contracting authority for the procurement of goods and services for the City of Chicago. We all work together as a team, as partners, and with our customers, vendors in the marketplace, to guarantee an open, fair, and timely process by establishing, communicating, and enforcing superior business practices. So, in that realm, there are laws and rules that we must follow. The first is the Municipal Purchasing Act. This is the act that was passed in the state legislature that governs the city's procurement practices. We also have the municipal code. These are ordinances that the chief procurement officer is obligated to follow in awarding contracts for goods, services, and commodities. Some common procurement terms that you'll often hear um, are bid package and addendum. A bid package is a set of documents issued by the city, namely DPS, to solicit bids for goods and services. An addendum is a change to that bid package, which may happen after advertisement and changes material terms that may impact pricing. Also, it may clarify some items that were not necessarily clear in the initial advertisement, and it will answer any questions that will give the bidding community more clarity as to what the city of Chicago is looking for in that bid package. The contract. The contract, as we all know, is a written agreement between anybody, but in this case, it's between the city of Chicago and the vendor for how the goods and services will be delivered to the city. There are different forms of contracts as well. An amendment or a modification to a contract changes what was in the originally signed contract. In a construction sense, a modification or amendment is often known as a change order. These changes can include price increases, time extensions, potentially additional services. There are a few different types of procurements, which we will get to now. We'll talk about five of them in particular: small orders, competitive bids, RFPs, requests for proposals, RFQs, requests for qualifications, and job order contracts, also known as job. The first is the procurement of goods or services less than $250,000. Compliance is required as it relates to the city's diversity goals for MBE/WBE for anything over $10,000. The small order procurement allows the chief procurement officer to more streamline a process to select a vendor for orders that are less than $250,000 and allow additional vendors the opportunity to bid for this work. Competitive bids are greater than $250,000. They are formally advertised in the marketplace. The formal advertised is the Chicago Tribune. We also have it in the Chicago Daily, and you'll often see it on our website. It's in the bid and bond room, is DPS alerts on our social media pages as well. Typically, these are open for 10 to 30 calendar days for a potential bidder or respondent to respond to. Some of these bids require deposits, so you should read the competitive bid package carefully to see what those requirements are. After the advertisement of a bid, the Department of Procurement Services, along with the user department, be that aviation, transportation, water management, AIS, will hold a pre-bid meeting. This include a site visit for the site of the work, and it will also include additional information and presentation from various speakers that will review the specifications, address any concerns. Sometimes these pre-bid meetings are mandatory, so please be sure to review the specification as to whether or not attendance is required. And in the event that attendance is not required, bidders and respondents are strongly encouraged to attend, as it only benefits you as a potential bidder or respondent to get more clarity or information. After the pre-bid conference, there's usually a question and answer period in which respondents and bidders can submit questions to DPS, and an addendum or clarification may be issued addressing those matters. In the event that there is not a pre-bid meeting, respondents and bidders are strongly encouraged to review the specifications and contract documents and contact DPS, the procurement specialist identified, if there are any questions. There's usually an email address and a telephone number for bidders and respondents to reach out to. Bid documents must be completed in its entirety. Make sure you fill in all required information. Acknowledging of addenda, additional calculations, and the like are absolutely required for a bid to be deemed responsive. If you do not have that information completed in its entirety, your bid could be rejected completely. You must sign the document in wet signature, and you must have the document notarized where it is required. Certain bid submittals require a bond or a deposit. They usually do not exceed 10% of the contract amount, and it must be submitted in a bid bond form. Cash or other tenders are not accepted. Bids must be submitted timely according to the instructions set forth in the solicitation documents. DPS does utilize the e-procurement system, so you're advised to register in advance and ensure any technical difficulties are ironed out before the bid submittal date. Once the bids are submitted, there is a bid opening date. Typically, that happens between Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. They're generally here at City Hall on the first floor in 103. Presently, the bids are being opened online virtually on the department's YouTube page. Bids are open and read aloud. They're tabulated. Once tabulated, DPS reviews the bid tab and the bid documents for accuracy and completeness. Generally speaking, DPS will post the bid tab, which is a list of all the bidders and all the respondents that responded 24 hours after the bid opening on the website, which you can search by the specification number. Once the bids and responses are reviewed, DPS makes a determination regarding the bidder's responsiveness and the bidder's responsible responsibility for award. A recommendation of award is prepared. The acceptable bid is packaged. Payment and performance bond, insurance, and the like are obtained. The contract documents flow through the city's signature process, and ultimately the lowest responsive and responsible bidder is awarded a contract that meets the city's guidelines and specifications. We'll next talk about requests for proposals. A request for a proposal, or RFP, is a method used to solicit proposals to implement a new project requiring professional services. The city will utilize this procurement method when sufficient in-house technical experts or resources are not available to implement the project. The RFP will define the objectives and the scope of services, but it doesn't necessarily detail every single aspect of the project like a low bid. It does require a detailed evaluation of proposals by an evaluation committee, and is based on the criteria of different evaluation criterion set forth in the RFP. Note that the low price is not the only factor. The city is looking for the best value that is available to the user department. Award is ultimately made to the highest rated and ranked respondents. An RFQ, or request for qualifications, is used by the city to solicit qualifications from companies who possess a high degree of technical expertise and knowledge in specific disciplines. The city utilizes these methods to pre-qualify companies to build a vendor pool to respond to future tasks or individual projects. Again, the evaluation or selection is based on qualifications and technical competence. For architecture and engineering RFQs, there is no cost proposal. Fee schedules are negotiated later as part of the master agreement or as part of the award of a specific task that is awarded later in the contract cycle. Most commonly used for A&E design contracts and certain categories of consulting. JOC, or job order contracts, is a firm, fixed price, competitively bid, indefinite quantity contract specifically designed for each department's construction program. Method is used to accomplish small to medium-sized projects. Instead of bidding every small or medium construction job and developing plans and text for every small job, a department in the city of Chicago can elect to use the JOC program to have the work completed. General contractors are solicited to respond to an advertised JOC specification, which contains a unit price book with description, unit of measure, and unit price for each task. As part of the award process and in response to a submittal, an economic disclosure statement, often known as EDS, is required to be submitted. The EDS, in summary, addresses the disclosure of ownership. A respondent or bidder must complete the EDS online. Generally, in addition to the respondent or bidder, any legal entity which owns more than 7.5% interest, either directly or indirectly, must also file an EDS. There are very specific rules for filing an EDS, so respondents and bidders are strongly advised to review the rules to complete the form that are posted on DPS's website. So in addition to purchasing, the Department of Procurement Services is also responsible for certification of firms. There are 6 types of certification which you see here. The common ones that we hear about are MBE and WBE, minority or women owned business enterprises. But there are also businesses that can be certified as BEPD, which are businesses owned by people with disabilities, or DBE, a disadvantaged business enterprise certification related to federally funded contracts, an ACDBE, which is used as a certification for airport concessionaires and operators operating in the airports, and finally, VBE, which is a certification designated for businesses owned by veterans. The basic requirements of any of these certifications are that at least 51% of the entity is owned and controlled by qualifying minorities, women, veterans, individuals with disabilities, or other disadvantaged individuals. The business must be small and it must be independent and viable. Participation in the MBE, WBE, and DBE program is set forth by the municipal code. 292-420 is applicable for all contracts other than construction. 292-650 applies to construction contracts. And for federally funded contracts, 49 CFR Part 26 sets forth the rules for DBE contracts. You're strongly advised to visit DPS's website, which talks about the certification process and details specific guidelines that must be followed to be certified. In all of these requirements, in our guidelines and rules, you'll see a common term called commercially useful function, which means that expenditures towards the MBE, WBE, or certification goals is only counted if the entity is performing a commercially useful function. So, what exactly is that? That is when a firm is responsible for the execution of a distinct element of the work of the contract, which is carried out by actually performing, managing, and supervising the work involved, or in the case of a joint venture, fulfilling responsibilities as a joint venture partner. We understand that it may not be, in certain instances, achievable in meeting the goals. So, DPS does have a process in place for reduction waiver if an entity applies good faith efforts. Generally, a contractor is not entitled to a reduction or waiver of the goals after substantial completion of the project or at closeout unless the contractor in writing makes a request to the CPO for a reduction or waiver. The contractor must demonstrate that it has utilized good faith efforts in meeting the goals and also documents what efforts it has made. Ultimately, if the goals were not achieved, the contractor has to demonstrate how and why the goals were not achieved and provide documentation of its good faith efforts. DPS also is entrusted with contract monitoring and compliance. So DPS monitors the actual utilization of MBEs, WBEs, and DBEs that are listed as subcontractors on a compliance plan. DPS also monitors the compliance of the Chicago Residency Ordinance and requirements related to the EEO commitments that a contractor may take as bid credits. The Chicago Residency Ordinance is a requirement from the municipal code that construction contracts valued at over $100,000 or more must have 50% of the hours work performed by City of Chicago residents. There's also a project area requirement such that the neighborhoods touching a project or the neighborhoods identified in the contractor specification, the contractor must have 7.5% of the hours performed on that project from members of the surrounding communities. We also require equal employment opportunity. In order to promote equality of opportunity for minority and female personnel on city-funded construction projects, an award criteria must be inserted into each contract spec that is estimated at $100,000 or more. Bidders are invited to propose a minority and female utilization goals in which a bidder is granted bid credits such that the criteria for award is reduced, having a favorable consideration when the CPO awards. So, how does one achieve compliance? The first is the prime contractor is a certified MW or DBE. Another is that firms can get together, form a joint venture, and as long as 51% of that joint venture is controlled by MW or DBE, an entity can achieve compliance that way. A prime contractor can sub a portion of the work to one or more MW or DBEs. Alternatively, a prime contractor can purchase materials that are used in the performance of the contract that is certified as a MW or DBE. Contractors are obligated to report. They must support and report monthly subcontractor payment certification forms, weekly certified payrolls, as well as lien waivers as part of the payment process. There are various programs and bid incentives that the Department of Procurement Services offers. SBI, MBI, non-construction MBI, diversity credit program, target market program, mentor protege, and the phased graduation program for MBE and WBEs. DPS also offers a variety of incentives which are listed here, such that as if these incentives are applied to a specification, a contractor is awarded bid credits so that the award criteria in selection of a bid is further reduced. All this information is on DPS's website, in which it talks about the rules and the parameters and how the credits and the incentives apply. Under Mayor Lightfoot's administration, diversity has been a top priority and equity in contracting. As part of that, a mayoral executive order requires contractors to submit projections as to when and what extent in the contract certified firms are expected to be used. Contractors must explain and recovery plan if participation is below the projected usage. Contractors that have agreements with the city are required to submit annual reports of their business diversity programs and include information as to expenditure on goods and services from minority owned firms and women owned firms during the prior calendar year. So there's a whole host of information on DPS's website. You can look at contracts that have been awarded in the past, payment history, bid tabulations, bid opportunities. You can see who is certified, as well as detailed information about the bids incentives and the rules and regulations that apply to City of Chicago procurements. Also, be sure to visit the e-procurement page so that you can register and ensure that any technical difficulties are addressed sooner rather than later when submitting a bid. If there are any questions, you can enter them into the chat box. Otherwise,
Q&A panel. The Q&A panel. I'm going to send something through chat. So if you have any questions, go ahead and enter them in the Q&A panel at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, and we will take those questions now. Ilias, thank you so much for giving us that great information. And let me ask if you want to take this opportunity, if you have anything that wasn't on your slides that you want to add, feel free to take this moment while they're trying to get their questions to us.
sure.
Go ahead and add that if you'd like.
Sure. I would recommend all potential bidders and respondents in the vendor community of Chicago that's interested in working and getting a City of Chicago contract is to visit our website. There is a ton of information there. It will give you all sorts of information and insights as to what the processes are, what the requirements are. Also, there is a listing of events, which Jackie spoke to earlier when we started, about opportunities for firms to network with prime firms and other subcontractors. Also, remember that you should really read the requirements for e-procurement. It is a registration process, it is a technical process. Make sure you're familiar with it. If you are going to be submitting a bid or a response to an RFP, RFQ, you don't want to do it at the last minute and have a technical issue. And finally, reach out to the Department of Procurement Services. We are here to help. We are here to be a partner in purchasing. So thank you, Jackie.
Thank you. That's great information. And as Ilias said, I did want to come back and just give a final note. Ilias, I don't think we have any questions, but I'm going to give him a few extra minutes. They might think of one. We will be having our vendor fair on August 25th at Malcolm X College. So some of the finer points that Ilias talked about earlier with the JOC program and e-procurement in various departments within the city of Chicago will all be at this vendor fair. So we welcome you to participate in coming out to this event. And again, like Ilya said, you can find all information on our website at www.chicago.gov/DPS. Well, Elias, I guess you did a fine job because there are no questions directed to you. So I do thank you, and I thank our participants for coming today to get this great information. And we look forward to seeing you at another event, specifically the one in August, on August 25th at Malcolm X. So stay safe, stay well, and we will see you then. Feel free to come back to any of our workshops or take a look in youtube.com/Chicago DPS. Thanks so much and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you, Ilias.
Thank you.